Hello again. I hope for all of my American viewers that you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Here is another Keys evidentiary video for you. This is an audio interview that is totally undated. Based on what it contains, I think that it is an earlier one that happened in early spring 2012, but I'm not 100% sure. And I have an exciting announcement. If you click the link in the description, we at Crime Culture Media have released every single Keys interview that we have obtained. You can go listen to them all right now for free. And if you want to watch the most in-depth documentary that's ever been created on this monster and his life and his victims, make sure you subscribe. Our main goal at Crime Culture Media is total transparency, and we've obtained so much Keys evidence, and that's why the last few months have been so heavily Keys. It's almost been exclusively Keys, except for a couple videos. And there is still more to come, but for now, here is the undated Keys interview in full.
It's also on tape.
Yeah, they're just going to get their recorders going. Every time they meet, you got to record it.
Yeah. Where do you want me?
Okay, you guys got
Yep.
recording? Okay. All right, good morning, Israel. I'm just going to make sure you know who's in the room. I think you know everybody so far, but Kevin Feldis from the U.S. Attorney's Office, Frank Russo also with the U.S. Attorney's Office. You know Officer Jeff Bell, Anchorage Police Department, and this is Agent Godin from the FBI, Jolene, okay? So she's going to be here today. She's been working on this case throughout. You may not have maybe met her before, but she's been around, so just wanted you to get to know each other. How are you feeling today?
Good.
Doing all right? Okay. Wanted to do the preliminaries that we have to do, which is first I'm going to ask them to read you your rights. We know you've heard them before, but we're going to just do that every time, okay?
All right. So I'll go over them with you. Just like Kevin said, you know this already, but you have the right to remain silent. You understand that?
Yes.
Anything you say can will be used against you in a court of law. Understand that?
Yes.
Okay. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you are being questioned. Understand that?
Yes.
If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you would like to have one. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, you can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. As we told you before, we can only speak to you about things that don't relate to Samantha Koenig. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It's the same as the last time. So we're here today to give you some information, give you some updates. You can listen to what we have to say. You can ask us any questions that you want. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let me just talk about kind of what I think the ground rules that we've been working on, you and I and the other folks in this room. And that is, we've agreed, I think, to be reasonable with each other and to be honest with each other.
All right.
Is that, I mean,
Yes.
do you feel that that's worked so far?
We'll see.
Okay. Well, we know
Nice streak so far, except for the cigars I got out of the deal. So
And
we'll
the coffee.
it. Yeah, come on.
Yes, coffee and cigars. Not belittling that. I'm just saying. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Understood. Fair enough. But I just wanted to, make sure that you felt so far we've been reasonable and honest.
Yes.
All right. And can I ask the same of you?
Yeah, I've been honest with you
Okay.
since I started talking anyway.
Right. Understood. All right. And I'm going to use those as sort of the ground rules to make sure that you don't, think that we're doing something
Right.
different than what we said we're going to do, and that we can have those expectations with you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Since we last met, we've been following up on what you told us about the couriers. And I want to let you know that the farmhouse where you left the bodies of Bill and Lorraine Courier, it has been demolished. When the FBI went out there, they found it had been demolished. But starting today, they are going to be doing excavation on that farmhouse. So when they went there, as I understand it, I wasn't there, but it was gone. But they're going to be doing
I guess I
excavation.
spoke too soon on that one.
Well, no, I don't think you spoke too soon. If you remember, you gave us that information because it was a way to move us forward.
Right.
So,
Well, that and I figured they would have been found pretty soon, but I didn't know it had been demolished. So.
well, we didn't
Whatever.
we didn't either,
Whatever
Israel.
happens.
Okay, but at least you know we didn't know that, right?
Yes.
So, and I'm telling you that I'm not going to hide it from you. I could have come here today and said, thanks, and never mentioned that it was demolished. But I want you to know that, okay?
All right.
All right. So it's been demolished. Starting today, they're excavating the site. I don't know what they're going to find, but we'll let you know, okay?
They probably just filled it in.
That's possible.
It's going to be in the bodies, unless they got moved around when they demolished it. They're going to be in the southeast corner of the basement.
Okay. And I know they're in the plastic bags you described to us. Are they looking? How many plastic bags should they be looking for?
4.
Okay. All right.
The bodies were completely covered, and they were underneath a lot of debris that I piled on top of them, like wood and trash.
Anything particular? Any large item? If they're excavating, what would they look for?
Along the back wall of the basement, there was a big built-in shelf unit made out of wood. I'm guessing if they demolished it the way they do most buildings back there, they probably just tore off the top part of the house and then filled in the bottom and called it good. So the bodies, if they had bothered to pull everything out of the basement, they probably would have found them. So I'm guessing they just buried everything where it was.
Okay.
Which means those bodies should still be in that back. It's the corner facing the road, the east corner facing the road.
Okay. And I don't know the details, but we're going to know more probably by tomorrow.
I'm sure the foundation is still there. I mean, once the bodies were right on the slab, so once they get to the slab on the basement, they'll find them down there.
Okay. Well, we'll let you know. We're just going to tell you whatever they find. Your goal. Go
Can I
ahead.
ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Just because, Israel, last time, from what I recall, you said the northeast corner, and today you mentioned southeast, and I just want to make sure that we have. So.
The northeast side of the house was a addition
Okay.
that didn't have a basement. That was the portion of the house that looked like it had been the most recently lived in. And then the original portion of the house, the 2-story portion, was the original farmhouse, and that's the part with the basement.
Okay.
So that portion of the house would be on the southern, like
southern.
on the road side
Got it.
of the house.
Okay.
And that's,
Just
it's
wanted
not a
to
very
confirm.
big basement. The basement, I think, was only maybe 20 by 30 or something.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. And they've already confirmed some of the other details you gave us, so that's underway.
It does sound like they excavated, like you're thinking. They caved the house down inside
Yeah.
the foundation.
And so you can see it's a process, including confirming all the details that you gave us. They have to go through and confirm.
Yeah, they're going to have a hard time finding any evidence now, obviously. I mean, except for the bodies.
Right.
But, I mean, like I say, I'll still tell the story, like what happened, but probably not today.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that. But as you can see, what I'm trying to let you know is it is a process. So things don't work as quickly as you might think. They have to. It takes time.
Oh,
to
no,
get
I
there.
can imagine if it's
Demolished.
They've got to basically take it apart with
Yeah.
by hand excavation now, so I understand that. I know
Okay.
it's going to take a while.
All right. Your goals that as I understand what you described to me last time, was that you didn't want to be dragged all over the country.
No.
Okay. I wanted to confirm that, and you didn't want to appear in different states and different jurisdictions.
No.
Okay, if that's possible.
If it's at all possible.
All right. And you told us that you wanted the death penalty, and you wanted it within 1 year.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me tell you what I have done to get information about those things.
Okay.
All right. I've spoken to what is called the Capital Crimes Unit at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
As I told you, we're federal prosecutors, and the Department of Justice, of course, covers the entire United States of America.
Great.
We have a Capital Crimes Unit, which deals with death penalty issues. They help coordinate. They don't take it away from anybody, but they are the folks who help coordinate cases around the country. So we've spoken to the people who we think are the best ones to help coordinate things. The other thing we've done is we've spoken to the United States Attorney's Office in Vermont, following up on the couriers.
Okay.
They are the federal prosecutors in Vermont. All right, so those are the people who we think can give us the most information and help control things the most.
Okay.
So let me tell you about what they told us. Okay? So the capital crimes, well, first of all, it's ultimately up to the Attorney General of the United States whether to recommend the death penalty or not. I just want you to know that. Okay?
Right.
If he recommends it, and what you've told us is that once we hear the entire story about all the people you killed and the details, that you have no doubt that a jury or a judge would impose the death penalty.
Right.
That's what you told us last time.
Right.
Okay. So if the Attorney General recommends a death penalty based upon the factors that he considers, and I'll tell you what those are, so you know what the different factors would be, go into that decision, or might go into it, that decision. There's a statute that talks about that, and I've got it here, and I can show you that. Then after the Attorney General makes a recommendation, then a judge or jury decides. If you didn't want a jury, you might be able to waive that and have a judge make the sentencing decision on a death penalty case. Okay, but you know how normally it would be. There'd be a jury trial, and then if they found you guilty of the crimes, then it would go to a different. Then the jury would consider the penalty as well.
Who would the jury be made up of?
It's going to be 12 people from the community, like any federal jury.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you have questions,
Whatever community the charges were from.
yeah. For example, if it were here in Alaska, it would be like any other federal criminal case in the sense of the
There
jury.
would be a jury just deciding strictly on the sentencing.
Yeah, it's different in a death penalty case than it is in a regular trial. They actually have a guilt phase where they decide whether you're guilty or innocent if you were to go to trial. And then they have a second jury that would decide on the death penalty issue.
Right. So if I plead guilty, then
There's
you
no-
just go straight to the jury that decides the sentencing.
And you don't even necessarily need to go to a jury on that either. That's something you could say, all right, the judge can decide. So it's up to
Yeah,
you.
but I got a better chance with the jury, probably. Especially if you're talking about Alaska.
Well, this is a federal court, so we can talk about that. You can get information about that down the road, okay? But I hope it's helpful to understand a little bit about
that's good to know.
Okay. One of the difficulties that I want you to know about is that death penalty cases take a lot of time
Right.
because the death penalty is such a significant sentence, and they're different than other cases.
Right, I understand that, but my understanding of it is that usually that's because the defendant is dragging their feet every way they can, through appeals or not guilty pleas or whatever. I'm telling you, I'm not going to be doing that, obviously.
Right.
So I'm curious as to why it takes so long.
Right. Well, let me tell you some of the factors in a minute. We'll discuss what are some of the factors that can make it go longer than or shorter. Because you've already hit on one, right? Obviously, you have a lot of rights. Any defendant has rights, and you can exercise those rights. And exercising those rights, may take time, but that would be up to you. You already touched on that.
Right.
There's also all kinds of appeals that can come into play, and it would be your decision what to appeal and if to appeal and all of that.
Right. There's no one who can appeal on my behalf if I don't want it, though.
I'm not going to give you legal advice about how that's going to work
I'm
out.
not asking for legal advice. I'm saying it's my. I mean, as long as I'm discovered, that's another thing I want to talk to you about. It's going to come up, like the psychiatric evaluation part of it. We need to get that scheduled just to have it out of the way.
Okay. So I'm talking to you about the couriers right now and other crimes, just so we're clear, okay?
Right.
Because I can't talk to you about anything else.
No, I'm not asking to talk about. I'm asking to talk about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's going to come up, the psych eval thing.
Right. And so,
For anyone
well, it may. I
reviewing
don't.
this case, especially people in Washington, they're going to want to know.
They want to know
about me and why I want this.
Yeah. Well, that's a great. Can you tell us why you want the death penalty? Because that might start the
Because
process.
I want this all to be over. I don't want all this other stuff hanging over my head while I sit in the Supermax somewhere waiting for the next thing to come down the pipe.
Okay.
And if we're talking about hypotheticals, can we just assume like we're talking about a hypothetical pertaining to the couriers, okay? Because I don't want to, again, touch upon the Koenig stuff,
Right.
okay? So let's just deal with that, assuming that...
Right.
If you were charged with the courier's murder and kidnapping and carjacking, we believe there's federal jurisdiction for that. Okay, so let's keep it in the context of the couriers and other crimes that you've committed. All right, just so we're clear, because we don't want to do anything to interfere with your rights. And just so you know, I want to make sure your rights are protected. Okay.
My rights are fine, no worries. I understand my rights, and I do know the Constitution, and I do know all the rights that are attached to it, even for people like me. So I appreciate that you are very concerned about my rights, but I'm not an ignorant person. I do know what they are, and I know, and I'm telling you I have very specific reasons for wanting what I want. And as extreme as it may seem to some people, it really is not that extreme to me, because of my outlook on things, and it's a personal opinion that I have of the way things are, and it's not going to change. And I know, as soon as I started talking to you, I knew I was never getting out. So I mean, for me, that is the death penalty, because I'm not Bubba from the Sticks who sat in one town for all my life, and I can't be satisfied sitting in prison for all my life. I've been lots of places, I've done lots of things, and sitting in prison for the rest of my life is a death penalty. Same thing to me. I'd rather go out while I still have some sanity and good memories. That's where I'm coming from. So, I mean, I want to discuss the bottom line, too. If we're talking about, we can talk about the couriers, hypothetically. That's not the way it's going to go. But, I mean, we can talk about that. So, hypothetically, I give you all the details. Like I say, they're not really going to find a lot of evidence, but I'm sure I can give you enough, whether it be through my motivations and like the way they died, that you're going to have some evidence to corroborate what I tell you. The rest of it, is just going to be my story, because, I mean, if the house is gone, there's not,
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, based on that alone, from my understanding of the guidelines, I qualify for the death penalty on that case alone.
Well, let me.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't see why not. I don't know. I mean, if I don't know who does. Let me put it that way.
And that's what you told us last time.
Right.
So one of the things we need to talk about is getting some of that information so that we can know some of the details to move in that
Right, but I
direction.
can't give you any more details on that, because that's not going to be the case.
Well, let me tell you about what.
No, it's not. If I have anything to say
Okay.
about it, it won't be.
The couriers won't be the case.
No.
Well, let me tell you what the U.S. Attorney's Office in Vermont has said. Okay, they've told us that they are okay with us proceeding here in Alaska on that case.
Okay.
There would be other things that would need to be done to confirm and finalize that, but that's what their office has told us.
Right.
Does that help you?
It's irrelevant to me. Because, I mean, if I have my way, then that case is never even going to go to court. It will be a moot point. I mean, they'll know for sure that I did it, and, whatever. Maybe there will be a hearing or whatever. I don't know how it works, but I don't see any reason why I will be punished for that if I'm already getting the maximum punishment.
But let me tell you about the death penalty factors, because I think maybe that'll help you understand why we're asking what we're asking and why we're telling you things. Under the law, the court must consider aggravating factors. What aggravating factors? And one of the first aggravating factors, as you can imagine, or one of the major ones, is other people that the defendant has killed, other murders. That is one of the biggest factors considered, as you might imagine.
Right.
So that's why we're asking you about it. Well, I'm not asking you, but I need you to know that. So if we're talking about the couriers and you've killed other people, the judge needs to know that. And not only does he need to know that, law enforcement has an obligation to find that out. So they can't proceed without knowing other details. If they suspect that there's other bodies they're going to
They have no
need to
reason to
find them.
suspect that.
Well, I think what you would probably imagine is that other agencies throughout the country are thinking, this missing person, that missing person.
Well, that's their prerogative. I already said I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna incriminate me in anything that they think I may have done.
Mm-hmm.
Not unless I get what I want.
Right. Well, let's talk about how we can get what you want while still getting the information that a judge or a jury or the capital crimes people are going to need.
Well, no, I mean, to me, it's one before the other. I get my execution date, and then I'll cooperate as long as it's irrevocable or whatever.
Well, I told you I wanted to tell you more about what the capital crimes folks told us, and they said that the 12 months, even if a person volunteers for the death penalty, which is what that was their term, somebody who wants the death penalty, the 12 months wasn't realistic. I don't decide that. I want you to have full information.
Their call.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it's not really. They aren't going to try to slow anything down for you. No one here.
Well, look, if it takes a year, if it's that much paperwork, then the federal government needs to discover email, because there's no way it should take a year, regardless of how many people you have to talk to or how much paperwork you have to file. It should not take a year.
And it's not us holding this up.
I'm not
it's
saying
not you.
it is you. I'm talking to the federal government right now. If it really takes them that long, then maybe they need to reevaluate their. Like I say, I can understand why it takes so long. In most cases, this is not going to be a standard case. This is not. And like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to do everything to move things along as quickly as possible. And to me, that should just make it easy for them. Piece of cake. Just cross all the T's, dot all the I's, do the paperwork.
Right.
I don't really understand what the what the possible factors could be that would make it take more than a year. I don't get that at all. I built houses in a year.
Right. But you're obviously a smart guy, and you can understand that the people in the federal government are not the only ones involved. There are courts involved. You said, is there appeal rights? Well, there may be other people out there who are against the death penalty. You know that, right?
Right.
You know
like
that
human rights. I understand that. Special interest groups. I don't. None of that is relevant though, because once I'm deemed to be competent to make my own decisions for my own fate, then they're no more entitled to make those decisions for me than the government is to make the decision that I deserve the death penalty without right to appeal. It's the same. To me, it's the same thing. I don't.
You believe that. People in this room may believe that, but I just told you when I came in there, I'm going to give you the information that I have. I'm not going to try to tell you something that's not true. I want you to just have that information so we can work together to see if there's different things that can be done.
Yeah, it sounds like it's out of your hands, though, because if they're saying there's no way it's going to happen, then that pretty much shut down your whole thing right there.
Well, what they said is, they said to me, you need to be realistic about how the process works. For example, competency. You mentioned competency. If we charge you with the couriers, carjacking, here,
you don't need to charge me with that.
Let me just use that as an example.
Right.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I'm just saying that there's things we could be doing right now as far as, like the competency issue. There's things that you could schedule psych evals right now. You don't have to wait till I'm charged. If you have it on paper, you say it was done on this date and he passed all these psychiatric evaluations.
Well, will you agree to do that?
Of course, I'll agree to do anything.
Okay, but again, in connection, I'm going to use the couriers because that's the crime that I'm talking to you about now. All right. If we can arrange to have someone come in and meet with you for a series of days or whatever long it takes to do this psych eval,
right?
Will you agree to do that?
Of course.
Okay. Well, see, that's good. We've just learned something today that I didn't know.
No, that's what I meant to talk to you about that last time, because I knew that was going to
Well, I'm glad. Then, Israel, I'm glad we met.
I've been trying to get down here, with my attorney to talk about other things, but, I know we can't talk about those things. But, we will be able to soon. So you'll just have to, we'll just have to bide our time on that.
Okay, but again...
As for the other things, like the psych evals and, whatever other hoops we have to jump through to make this work or go faster, or at least so I have a better idea of how long things are going to take, then, the happier everybody will be.
Okay. Well, this is good that we met today, because
Right.
now we know that there's something that you want and that we can probably arrange. All right? And so that's good, right? Would you
Right.
agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's other things, I think, too, and Jolene could probably speak to this because she's involved in these cases. Histories of you are going to move things forward. I don't know if you want to mention that, but
Sure. One of the things that in the last case that I was involved in, that was a death penalty type case, one of the things that I was responsible for doing was putting together basically the history of a person
Right.
for them, because they want all the information. And so in that case, that required me basically talking to everybody under the sun that I could come up with. And we know that obviously you don't want us doing that.
Right.
So if that's something that you would be amenable to do in terms of sitting down and kind of talking about
Yes.
that, and you obviously can talk about what you want to talk about. I can't force you to talk about stuff, but if you're okay with that.
If you want a timeline from the time I was 14 years old up until now, I can give you that. And if you get my filing cabinet out of the house, if you don't already have it, there are documents in there that will back up a lot of what I say. You're not going to find much before I was in the Army, because I wasn't. I had a driver's license, but I wasn't even on paper really. I
Okay.
didn't have a social security number or anything. So, so that stuff, you might have a hard time verifying any of that information. But from the time I was in the Army on,
Okay.
I'll give you a timeline. And like I said before, it'd be nice to not have everybody I ever have known pulled into this, but if you have to verify certain things or talk to certain people, that's fine. Like I say, eventually I think you and your investigators are going to find you're not going to find anybody in my past, with the exception of maybe one or two Army guys, that is going to have any suspicion whatsoever that I am the other person that I am.
Well, and that's the
just
benefit.
the way it is.
That's the benefit of hearing it from you. Or if we can sit down and do that, then that alleviates me having to call all those people, because there's no need to do it if you're telling me the information.
Right.
So,
And the other thing we wanted to let you know today about our investigation is how we're moving forward with this, because you know that we have a team of people together here, and we have to move forward with this investigation. And I know how important it is to you that there's not a media frenzy, that a lot of the information is not put out in the media.
Right.
But as we're going through your records as far back as we can get them, meaning bank
The computer.
accounts, credit cards, computers, everything that we can do, we're starting to put some things together. And I just want you to know that, like this Vermont thing, is once we get information, suspicion or something about a place, something that raises a question with us, we're going to have to reach out possibly to other states, things like that. And the advantage, I know you want to keep it all bundled here, so I just want to present it to you that this, like Vermont so far, we've kept this as quiet as we can do. But who knows how these other states are going to cooperate. So if we can get this information bundled all at once, kind of, rather than us finding things out a little bit at a time, that would benefit you in not having a media frenzy. Because what we don't want to happen, and I don't think you want to happen, is everywhere we find something, some clue that we need followed up on, we're going to have to reach out, and that's going to create questions and things that...
All right. I understand what you're saying, but and of course I can't tell you not to do that. But I will also tell you that you're not going to find anything, with the exception of what's on that computer that was taken from the house. The other computer I used to use is somewhere in the Anchorage landfill. That's the only other thing that could possibly tie me to anything. And if you want to put out the information and talk to people I know and try and connect missing people or other felonies, whatever the case may be, to me, I can't tell you not to do that. All I can say is that unless I talk about it, you're never going to find any evidence. And the more you investigate me and the crimes that I am confessing to, you're going to find that if I wasn't talking about those, you wouldn't have much evidence. So,
and this other computer you're talking about, was it taken to the landfill in March?
No.
With the rest of it?
You're talking about
a few months ago.
Okay, you're talking about the downstairs or the
Or her laptop.
No, the computer. The only computer I used in the house was the tower, the PC tower.
Yeah, okay. You said computer. I thought you meant maybe...
That is her computer.
No, but there was another laptop. That's
her laptop.
Yeah.
I think I've gone on there once or twice.
Well, you confused me because you said computer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
they were both her computers. And the other computer, the computer that I had from the time that I lived in Washington, is the one that I used to use. I used to plug it in, depending on what I was searching for or what I was doing on the internet. I would plug it in and use that until a few months ago, but it went to the dump. So.
Well, I think what Officer Bell is trying to say is we want to control things here. We want to give you an opportunity to control so we can continue to talk. And the different bits of information, you can't tell local agencies not to investigate. But if it happens like it was in Vermont, what we did is we had the FBI. We have the FBI, again, you're talking about a federal agency. They sent their team from FBI to control that site.
Right.
If you let this to just the local Essex PD and sheriffs and those folks, what do you think would happen?
No, that is why I gave you that, because like I say, I didn't know that house had been demolished, and I've been expecting to read a bulletin about that being found any day.
Right.
And I had a trip tentatively scheduled back there this month or next month. That was the plan.
To get rid of the bodies?
To burn the house down.
Okay. But you can, again, I told you I was going to give you,
no, I understand.
Honest with you.
I don't want.
Here's what's going to happen.
I don't want the local authorities involved anywhere, because I know what happens. They start putting up pictures of me, and they start talking to everyone who may have seen me there, and that with the exception of Anchorage, you're not going to find anything in places where I've lived. You're not.
We're going to find anything else here in Alaska?
No. And
no other bodies in Alaska?
No. No, you're not going to find anything near where I lived.
Right.
That was, like I say, this Anchorage was, I knew better. I was telling myself the whole time I was doing it, it was a bad idea. You don't do things near where you live.
All right, don't talk to us about that. Don't talk to us about that, okay?
All right.
About this.
I'm just
It's
saying,
not because-
I'm not talking about Anchorage. I'm saying anywhere where I've lived,
Yeah.
you're not going to find anything.
Right.
Because there wasn't anything.
But it sounds like you have a really good sense of what's going to unravel here with local agencies.
If we have to, well,
No, here, meaning
anywhere
in the country.
we have to go out to.
Yeah,
locally.
I mean, your travel records, they follow that up. Your credit card records are
Right.
going to tell you where you travel from. They're going to put that together with
That's going to
missing
take
person.
years.
But they have to start.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
They've got
not,
some
that's
ideas.
just in the United States.
Right, no, but you have to
If you wanted
understand.
us to go international, like I say, you could.
We already know you've crossed the border. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, right? I mean, we know you've been
No,
in Mexico.
I've been.
So,
Like I say, if they want to do that, if they think they could find stuff on me that way,
It's not whether they find or not.
We have to do that. We're obligated.
right?
to
And you have to do that whether I talk or not. So I mean,
right. So, do you want to control this, or do you want them to control it?
I can't control it.
You can, though, because you controlled Vermont.
And that's what I'm trying to present to you is that you have control over whether we reach out to every place that you've
I
been.
want to control it, but I want to control it after I get what I want. I've already told you enough to get what I want.
You do understand that we don't decide on the death penalty or not.
I know.
Right.
That's why I'm saying let's grease the wheels. Let's make it easy for the people who do decide.
Do you want to know what Capital Crimes told me about how one of the ways we can grease the wheels?
Yeah.
Okay. They said the more we know about other victims, and the more the FBI can control that, then that's more information that'll go. Basically, there's a confidential report that's written. Okay. And that's why she needs some of this background. It's confidential. The public doesn't get it. Okay, it doesn't never get released. We've worked other death penalty cases, other homicides. The report never gets released. But in that report, you have to include all the details, like the statutory aggravators. All right. So the more things that are in that report, then the decision gets made easier. You told me the other day, that if once everybody knows the full extent of your crimes, then they're going to have no problem finding the death penalty. So the more we can put in that report.
I was referring to the ones I've already talked about.
Okay. Well, then that was my mistake. I was thinking it was more details about other things.
I'm not going to talk about here. I've already. Here's my thing. I've talked to you about things that I suspected were going to be tied to me anyway, sooner or later. I knew as soon as it became apparent that I wasn't going to be getting out of custody for a while, that you would have enough time, and there was a good probability that I would be tied to these other things that we've been talking about. There are some more things that I will talk to you about, but I'm not going to talk about anything on the scale that I have so far until we have a deal, an agreement. And the reason for that is I believe that, like I've already said, for the most serious crimes that I've already talked about with you, there is not a jury in the country, or probably very many judges for that matter, who wouldn't give me the death penalty for those alone. And so in my mind, that is the starting point. That's what we have to work with right now.
Here's another. Well, let me just give you more factual information so you can be informed. You know, if you read the news, there's a movement around the country right now to revoke the death penalty.
Right.
They've just done it in New York was voting, I think, yesterday. It's up in California.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying about how there's not a judge or jury in the world based upon what you've told us so far. But I can't say that I completely agree with you, given the movement that's out there. I don't need to debate you. We don't need to agree, but I just want you to know that there's other forces out there that are moving in a different direction right now along the country. So it is true. It is a fact, and I feel confident in this. The more that you tell us, the more information that'll go into the statutory factors to be considered. That's just a fact. And so I want you to know that.
Maybe it doesn't even have to be, through some details. I mean, what we can put in that confidential report to the Attorney General is, a number, for example. I mean, that was going to help things go along.
Similar to the Vermont case. I mean, we don't know the details on that. We just know just enough facts to present. So that's kind of just what we're throwing out to you today, and that's why we wanted to give you that information.
Well, I'll think about it, but honestly, first of all, if you're saying right off the bat that it's not going to happen within a year, then I'm losing interest in the whole thing anyway. So,
well, I didn't say it's not, but I wanted you to tell you what the information that I got. I remember when we sat down today. I said I'm going to tell you what I know, and I'm going to be reasonable, and I wanted to tell you the information I'm getting about how long this process works, no matter, even if it's what they call, I guess the terminology, I didn't know this, Israel, but people refer to this sometimes as someone who's volunteering or wanting the death penalty. And even in those cases, it doesn't move within a 12-month time frame, or it hasn't done that. I'm telling you that not because I'm trying to drag anything out. Believe me, I'd like you to sit here and tell me everything you knew, and we'd, boom, boom, we'd be done with this, and we'd be moving on to some judge or jury to decide what happens to you. But we know that that's not realistic. We've got psych evaluations. We've got, this isn't something we decide. You're going to have judges involved, and you're going to have law enforcement agencies around the country who are going to be sifting over the data from the computer. Right now, we've got it controlled in the FBI. Do you want to keep control of this?
of course I do, but what you're saying is talk more and you'll keep control, and I know for a fact that's not the way it'll work.
It has so far.
Well,
Look, we're talking about stuff that didn't happen that long ago. I mean, and look what happened already with the Couriers. The house was demolished. They're having to dig it up. And you're talking about
what's your
years
goal?
ago.
What's your goal here?
You're talking
To keep stuff from us or to help us move forward? I'm just
I want to
wondering.
help you, but if you're only if there's something in it for me. I don't feel any moral sense of obligation to tell you anything.
We didn't give you the moral
I've
argument.
already told you why I've told you what I've told you. So
Well, I just want to know what your goals are so that I can make sure I understand them now and moving forward. And you've told me, and that's the way I started with. And I want to tell you, what I understand to be the process. So if your goal is not to hide these things, but rather move forward with whatever sentence and punishment is coming your way, then the more information we have, the better. That is just a fact. You choose.
I will give you all the information that you need on the cases that we've already talked about. I will give you all of that. And I will give you some other information as well.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't tell us about other bodies?
I never said there were.
Are you telling me that there are not?
I'm not. I told you I would talk to you about the things we've already talked about. I'll give you all the details. And that is, that's... I think that's perfectly reasonable for what I'm asking.
I just need to build the strongest case.
You have a very
possible.
strong case. Once I know we can't talk about anything that happened in Alaska. I know that. But, just give it a week or two or whatever it's going to take for me to be indicted, and, you'll have what you need to.
Well, let's put that.
We won't even have to.
We won't.
This other stuff.
We're putting that. We're not talking about that. We're going to talk about the couriers and anything else.
But I can't even talk about the couriers yet.
Yeah, you can. It's up to you.
No, I'm just saying I can't. They haven't even found the bodies yet, so why would I talk about it now?
What I said before is the more facts that we know, the more that can go into the memos that we eventually have to write. The more that we can control the media.
What about other felonies?
We know about the bank robbery in Texas. We know, I don't think that's the scale of the kind of stuff that is going to move this process forward, right? We haven't even mentioned that because why? Because I don't think it's going to help.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to bring up any ancient history stuff. I told you I'll give you a timeline of everywhere I've been, and if you want to try and track down, if you want to try and do that.
It's not. I guess it's not a matter of me personally wanting to try. It's just a matter that you know that every local agency around the country is going to do that. And maybe they won't find anything, but in the process, they're going to have to do some of the things that you told me you didn't want to have happen. So, that's just information for you.
Well, if they want to do that, that's their...
There's other things.
You have to understand that, you keep saying we've been reasonable with each other, and, like I say, this is a one-way street, because I know you don't control all these other agencies, but they also need to understand that I already know what they're going to find or what they're not going to find, and they don't know that. So if they really think that, or if you think, or if anybody thinks they can dig through my past and of all the places I've been, of all the people I've known, they're going to find the one little whatever that's going to tie me to something, I can't stop them from thinking that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to, and you're talking about them talking about to people I know, and you already know that's not something I want. So if I start hearing back that they're grilling every single one of my family members or relatives everywhere I've been, do they really think that's going to make me want to talk? I don't think so.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand what you're telling me, because I think you told me, well, I don't think you didn't want to share additional information. If you share it here in this room...
I will share additional information, but only if I get what I want.
And how are we going to get where we want to go without, isn't it kind of a two-way street?
It is.
Okay.
But, yeah, you got to work with what you have.
Okay. But I think you have to know that the people in this room and the FBI are not going to be able to be blamed or controlled what other people do. The only way they can control it is if the FBI goes in. If the FBI goes into a location, to a jurisdiction, they go to a state and they say, our federal investigation has specific information about where there's a body. We're going to take control of this scene. Otherwise, it's going to be the local authorities doing all this searching that you said. Maybe they won't ever find anything. I don't know. But that's what they're going to do. And so I just don't want you to come back in a few days or a week or however long it is, and say that somehow there's been this stuff in the media. Because it won't be from us.
The FBI wants to take, if they want to start giving out information.
No, it isn't up to them.
Jurisdictions
It's
about
not up to
everywhere
them.
I've lived. It is up to them, because you just said they control the. They're trying to figure out everywhere I've lived. That's part is federal. I understand that they're not going to be investigating each jurisdiction or area that I've lived, but they are still controlling how how those jurisdictions even find out that I ever lived there. You see what I'm saying? They still control they still have the ultimate say in who knows what.
Well, you're giving. I think you just have to know what some of the reality is, right? If they have information, they can control it. If they don't have it, it's like the absence of information is when you can't control things. That's all. Well, let's go back to what I think we did agree upon is the psych evaluation is something that you want, okay, and the timeline is something that you want, okay.
Yeah. And I would, if there is research material that I can read up on as to why it takes a year, then I would love to have that information. That'd be some entertaining reading.
Yeah,
it's possible.
We're not.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to give it to me today. I'm just saying if
why would
have reasons, if there's criminal code or something that's prohibiting this from happening, or something that I don't understand or know about, then I would love to have chapter and verse to be able to read about it, because to me that just sounds crazy.
Well, why would I come to you trying to slow this down? I mean,
I know you're not.
Okay, so
but it sounds like they're free. To me, what it sounds like is just because it's never happened in a year, they're saying it won't happen in a year, and that's not a realistic statement to make for anything. You don't say, well, just because it's never happened, well, let's not even try. It's like, I mean, if there's a specific reason, like I say, something somewhere in the criminal code or whatever.
Well, but they're speaking from experience. They've dealt with some heinous crimes before, right? So
I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying that this is what I'm asking for is not your general everyday run-of-the-mill type thing. I'm saying that once you have the stories, and the details and, all the evidence that I'm going to give you for what we've talked about, then that qualifies me for what I want. And they may be saying it doesn't happen within a year, but they don't even have that information yet. So how can they say that? I'm just curious as to what is going to take a year. I don't get it.
But let me understand. What did you just say? You said, how can they make that decision when they don't have the information?
They don't even have the cases yet. I don't understand. What are the
No, but the factors are the one here. It says there's a whole statutory sections in the United States Code that talk about the death penalty.
Right.
And the factors include the number of victims is a high factor. They've dealt with cases with a lot more victims than one or two, so they know that from experience how long it takes. I'm not going to try to slow it down. I just want you to know the facts. So if you're trying to make it this different than other cases, right now I think the capital crimes people will tell me that this isn't different. I'm not going to try to slow it down. I don't think they're going to try to slow it down. They're just telling you when you go through the judicial process on something like this, here's how it works. So
There's a certain amount of automatic appeals. Are there not?
automatic appeals by who?
No, obviously it'd have to be you appealing. But again, as Mr. Felder said, and as you know, there are people out there opposed to the death penalty. They can come in and they can sue to sort of hold things up. And that's not in your control, that's not in our control, it's not in your lawyer's control. That's just the way, it sometimes happens. And I think, those people in some respects can be...
I hear what you're saying. I don't think it's going to happen. But
Well, I think if they, if people find out the extent of what you've done, I think that becomes harder for them to do that.
Right.
Quite frankly, that's what Mr. Feldes is saying. He's saying, the more information we have in that confidential memo, the more that it's going to become more difficult to stop things.
So just take that information. But
All right.
But right now, what they're telling me, 2 heinous crimes, 3 heinous crimes, they've dealt with that before. So take that for what it's worth. There's a couple other things that if you want to answer, you can. You don't have to, but it's following up on the couriers with some of the federal jurisdiction stuff. You mentioned the silencer last time. Can you tell us whether that's something you made or you bought? That's a federal.
I made it.
You made it. Can you tell us whether we've seen the silencers that are machine made versus something that's kind of just wrapped up?
It's pretty sophisticated.
Would it be fair? Not fair to say. I just need to ask you for federal jurisdiction. Is it machine made with a pipe?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got some skill in that. Take it. Okay.
They'll be impressed.
Okay. All right.
I was impressed.
All right.
Is that something they're going to find in the basement, or you got rid of that,
No, it's with the murder weapon.
which you buried?
Yep.
Okay. Well, then it doesn't really help me because if we're not going to find it, then the federal jurisdiction.
No, I told you. I'll tell you where it is.
Okay.
But, like I say, we need to be able to talk about other stuff first.
Well,
Talk about that
the commitment I've been able to get you was that the U.S. Attorney's Office there, is happy for us to handle this case, which is, I think, is where we started this conversation. Is there certain
Right.
things you wanted, and I think we brought one of those things here. Now, there's obviously things that would need to be finalized about that. It isn't certain
What things that I wanted?
to not be dragged around the country and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. No, right.
And that's no easy task. Believe me, it took several days.
Right.
So-
No,
so you know.
that's great. I mean, that's why, like I say, I expected that house to be sold and found out any day. So, that's good. It's getting taken care of from up here. But that's not really my concern right now. Like I say, I would rather that never even... I mean, obviously, like you say, you need a list with corroborating evidence of the things I've done, but that's not
But I can even
the case I want.
I can put aside the corroborating details. I mean, if I could start to go back to capital crimes and tell them, that Israel Keys is responsible for killing this many people, then I can give you I can take that to them. I don't know that. I can't do that now. You consider that, okay? So the silencer was one thing that I needed to ask about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's there.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you, it would help if we found that. That would help. Keep this here in Alaska and keep it federal.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'll give you where the guns are buried, and if I'm going to do that, I might as well give you their, I tossed that other gun up there too. It's not far away from where they're buried. I'll give you that stuff today if I get my cigar, and I need a restroom break, and we'll need Google Maps, and on a big screen probably it's going to be kind of hard for me to find, but I can find it.
Okay.
If you want that stuff today, I'll give it to you. If I get my cigar. But I'm not going to tell the whole career, I'm not going to tell the whole story, like everything that happened. I still, like I say, I still think there's other things we need to talk about first. So.
Well, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, if you need the silencer, then yeah, I'll give you that stuff.
All right, I'll get the map, yeah.
I'll get Steve and the cigar. And we'll go down.
Yes, we'll get Steve over here.
And I'm going to go on pause. It's 11:28 by my watch. I'm going back on tape.
driving mouse there?
I'm gonna try it without wrecking.
So we're back on.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so all same folks still in the room.
Yep.
Yes.
And yeah, we're going to just dial that up.
496.
Okay, so Jeff's got the farmhouse up on the screen. I don't know if that's where we need to look or you tell
No,
us.
we're going to need to go to upstate New York. Probably start with Malone. We'll have to try and find it from there.
Malone, New York.
Yeah, MALE.
So you said you're not from New York, but you family place
I
there or
have
something.
property there near Malone.
Okay. Is that someplace you spend time or haven't in Malone?
I lived there for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I've had the property there for a while since I was in the Army.
Is it yours? Or just you? Okay.
Which direction
Let's go south from there. Okay, follow Highway 30, zoom out.
Scroll on that button there. Yeah, that's it there.
what?
30.
On the left-hand side.
Yeah, I keep following 30. Oh,
458, I think.
Zoom out. Go further south. Saranac Lake. Go. Oh, there's Tupper Lake. All right, a little further south and then west. Okay, zoom in. All right. Go west.
Following this road?
Yes. I believe so. Yeah. Highway 3. Go north. A little further north. All right, zoom in right there. Go south. Okay, zoom out. I'm not sure if we're in the right reservoir. Zoom back in one, and then go north. St. Regis Falls. Potsdam. Zoom in. I think that where we were was the right one. Should be Stark Reservoir. I think so. Zoom in. Stark Road, Joe Indian Road.
I think this is Cary Falls Road.
What's the one to the east? Does that say River Road? Or not, I'm sorry, west.
Yeah, River Road.
Where does that turn off of?
Comes off the highway.
56. Stark Road. Zoom in and go west. Or, I'm sorry, east. Okay, go north. Now, go east.
Structure. Water line or stop line or something.
Yeah. Go east, follow that shoreline east.
Garlow Road, Stark Lane. This road or trail ends there.
This might not be the right reservoir. Lake Falls, Rainbow.
Warm Brook Flow.
Type go north, and then see if you can bring up or parks. Not that far north. Go back on those reservoirs. See if you can type in like campgrounds or something. There's a campground I stayed at somewhere along that road near the reservoir.
Along 56 or along?
Yeah, it was 56. I think it's right there. I think the one I stayed at is right there by the sign that says 56. Go south. Or the little tag further south. I think it's right there.
Right. On which side? On the reservoir side?
Yeah.
What's the name of the reservoir? I'm typing that in here. Stark. Sorry. Have me go back up.
Cherry Falls.
Cary Falls.
Or Cherry.
Cherry Falls Reservoir.
Campgrounds. Let's see if I can-
right on the water, and it was pretty heavily wooded.
That's right here, maybe, in this area.
Yeah.
Looks like a camp.
There's a boat launch.
There's definitely boats there, I think.
What's go further south. No, that's not right. It was a big lake. It was only a short drive. I'm pretty sure it was 56. Short drive off 56.
Okay, there's a couple campgrounds. Let's see.
If you pull up, if you go to a website, it's sponsored by. Trying to remember what New York is. It's not National Forest.
The Adirondack.
Yeah, it's Adirondack National Parks, I think, is what they're called. And it should pull up all the locations on that reservoir.
Yeah, well, my Google map is working. These are all the
That's not
campgrounds, but it's just still circling.
I saw there was an Adirondack Road off one of the lakes.
Okay, here's Adirondack.
ADI.
State Park.
Yeah, Adirondack State Park. I've got that.
State Park campgrounds, maybe.
Camping, there you go.
Probably state parks.
Guide to State Park Campgrounds, Adirondack.
State Park.
I think so. Yeah. We could do it by region, maybe. We've got a map further down. Yeah, it should be the blue one.
Does it search for a particular name? We don't know. This one?
Yeah, it should be in that area.
Adirondack?
Yeah.
You pretty sure about that reservoir, being near that reservoir?
It's on that river, but there's about 5 or 6 reservoirs on that river. I think that river is St. Regis River or something.
Guy would have something like
This doesn't look like it's going to get you there.
that. Here's maps and photos.
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah. It's probably should have a guide.
Well, that's just a picture of it for this. Oh, it looks like all they've done is taken
find other campgrounds.
Within 10 miles of boat launch?
Yeah.
Let's go back up through one at a time.
Go. Yeah, it should have a guide to all the names of them.
Here's
Yeah. There you go.
okay.
Go north. All right, now zoom in there. Yeah. Adirondack State Park.
Doesn't look like there's any campgrounds there. They're all.
They probably run by different.
Yeah, be a state campground.
I'll start right here. Yeah, there's only one. It's right there. For state, yeah.
Which one is that?
Ely Flow State Park.
This Grass River.
That's not a state one. It's a state park, but there's no campground. And it's definitely one of these big ones, not this smaller up in here. Ely Flow.
Yeah, we can try that one.
Your regional map.
Doesn't even look like it's on water, does it?
No, it's got to be
Here's a whole
under a different
the
classification.
website that lists every campground in the state if you want to pull it, and then it does it by regions. So if you want to try this.
Website.
What is it?
HTTP, M, ADK.com. And if you scroll down,
Adirondacks Lake Region.
Campgrounds?
Yeah.
that's a different website than this.
Yeah, I might be able to get us closer on that atlas.
Carrie Falls boat launch near Colton.
Zoom in.
Yeah, this is Cary Falls down here. Right here.
Imagery dated May 27, 2011, so it's fairly recent.
Looks like it was right in here somewhere, didn't it? Thought so. Just toggle between them.
No, go east. Or I'm sorry, west, northwest.
It's really a boat launch. It should have a road right up to it. It should be hard to find if there's one here.
Can't see this one. Stark Falls Reservoir.
Can't tell. What's the... Oh,
Looks like it's right in here, right?
Yeah.
Right here, Panhandle Deck Park, that's the road with it. That looks like a campground there. Is there a river coming?
yeah. Well, I mean,
That's the whole bit there. This looks like a campground maybe right on the.
that's the dam. It wasn't near the dam. I'm not convinced this is the right
Reservoir.
part of the reservoir. Can you follow 56? Just keep following it and see where it goes. Make sure I'm on the right road here. 56, Colton.
Clearwater Falls, Sure, and the Potsdam.
That's down.
Wasn't north of Potsdam.
Go. No, go back. All right, zoom in there.
This one?
Yeah. I don't think this is the
These are
right.
houses.
I don't think this is the right road. Go follow 72. That other road there. Or no, go back south.
It does 72 stop, turns into 56.
I think it's that one. I thought it was 56. There's too many freaking lakes. Yeah.
Cary Falls and Stark Falls all connected, and you have Lake Falls.
Yeah, I think that's the Raquette River. That's what it says on here. But I can't remember if that's the right river. Canton Falls. Damn. What's the road?
You already tried to start the Dark Falls campgrounds.
Trails.com.
That's the right, is that the right,
Mhm.
we're in area?
Mhm. What's that dot up there?
Here's the marker. See, yeah,
What about view guide?
It's a trail guide.
Carry Falls campgrounds. Sounds like a campground.
That's like, that's a 10 run better as well.
So what are we looking for within the reservoir? Like, is it a corner of a reservoir? Is it? What will we do?
It's a boat launch. It's a boat launch right on the reservoir. I think if you go back to the Google map, the Google Earth map, go south, or I'm sorry, north. Keep going north. This shows a road coming off of 56.
And zoom in.
There is one right here.
Okay, so that.
No name yet. Do you think this would be a boat launch right here with this building to pay fees or something?
No. Follow that road. Yeah, keep going north there, following that road. I'm wondering if Blake Falls Reservoir. Yeah, zoom in. Alright. This does not seem right.
That goes in there.
This kind of loops in over here too. I don't know if there's I think, of course, the boat launch we're not going to see. It's just a back down into the lake boat launch. Is it
Yeah.
concrete or is it just dirt?
It's concrete, the boat launches, but it's not. It's just
This
it's
looks
not like a big
this
operation.
right here, but I think match with where the
Zoom in on there. And
boat launch.
No, that's not it. No.
somebody look up boat launches in
Trying to-
Lake Falls Reservoir.
Yeah,
I have it, but
Cat's gonna do it.
it wants to do.
Yeah, just go. Keep going with the map. Go with the Google. See what's at the end of that road there. Too. You can keep following those roads.
Okay, so it goes around.
So these must be all pump buildings or something supplying each reservoir.
Dammed up part of the Racket River off Route 56 north of CV has public access boat launch and campsites at the Cary Falls Parmenter site. Best access point is 4 miles north of the 3 and 56 intersection.
4 miles north. The 3 and the 56.
Turns lead into the signposted Parameter Campground.
Yeah, try that.
Offers overnight camping with ample parking and a boat launch.
Well, where's 3 then? 3's back here? Oh, here's 3 maybe.
A shallow beach beside the boat ramp offers an out-of-the-way staging area.
There's 3. So here's 3 and 56.
How many miles? It's at 4, let's say, 4 miles north and 3 and 56.
Where's the, let's see a scale. Per miles.
There's a Stark Reservoir boat launch as well, we can check.
This is the dam you said, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, this right here, what's this right? You said it wasn't near that, what's this right here? This road kind of goes into this thing right here. That looks good.
No. Trying to think of what else was around there. There's a trailer. Right off the road. St. Regis Falls.
Maybe you and I might be on the same website.
Where you at? Just north of the Cary Falls and Stark. Joey's got a picture. It's up there. Right down there.
That's gonna be it right there, man. Out of Adirondack Park. Joe Indian Road back to Adirondack Park.
Oh, you're still that long. I didn't know that long.
Lake, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the Stark Falls Road is either here or here. One of these two corners.
Do you remember anything about the campground? Like how big it was, or
It's not very big. It's only maybe 20 sites.
all tent sites, not like big RV sites, or
Yeah, I don't think there's any power there.
no power?
Road, yep. Turn right after that 1.5 miles.
Did you stay overnight there?
Right again.
Yeah, I stayed there for a few days
In your car, in a tent?
in a tent.
Is there fish?
The other one, the other road it might be on is 458, which is going to be to the northeast of 56. Because I spent some time over there too. That doesn't look right though, because I crossed.
The other side, west. Go west, northwest.
No, it is east, northeast. Keep going. Lake. Keep going. There it is. Zoom in on that. Just that area there. Follow 458 to the west.
Blue Mountain Road, Wade Road, into
Goes-
Citrus Falls.
So that goes down, ties into 11. No, I don't think that's right. All right, go back to 56. I gotta make sure 56 is the right road. Go closer to Potsdam. Yes. Now start moving south. Yeah. Yeah, just keep following 56 down something. Still look right.
And you think it was definitely one of the bigger reservoirs and not one of these smaller ones off here?
No, I think I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't realize there were so many reservoirs. I camped further south from there, and then I left that campground, drove down 56. That had to be what I did. All right, so go back up north. I think I recognize that Joe Indian Road name. Follow that road that turns off. It keeps going. There should be houses and stuff along there. Yeah. River Road, follow that further north. And then at some point it should start running right along the reservoir. Something like that.
Looks like it changes to Raquette River Road.
Okay. Right. Go back. South. Yeah. Zoom in right there. Is that an island? Looks like an island. Alright, go further south. Does it zoom in any more than that?
It does, but it just gets more distorted.
Okay, go east. Or I'm sorry, west. River Road.
I didn't see any houses on this reservoir. I thought that the populated reservoir was the one much closer to.
There weren't any houses. I think that's the right one. Well, there were houses where it turns off of 56. There were some farms and a few houses back where I think it was called Joe Indian Road. Follow that river road down to where it intersects with whatever that other one was called. Joe. Oh, there it is. I think that's it. That's it.
Piece of concrete right there.
I think that's it.
So it was right off
Yeah,
the road.
that's it. I think I'm almost positive. Follow it just to make sure. Keep going south. Follow that. Further south.
Yeah, this looks like some type of a building that you might have passed on the right-hand side here. I don't know what it is, but it's got
There's like a shooting range or something.
it's got something.
That's still River Road.
Yep, River Road.
Stark
Road.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, now follow Stark Road. No, the other way.
Back where we were.
West. Stark. So it keeps going.
To 56.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so because it was a sharp right-hand turn,
Okay.
and then I took a left onto a road, which would be River Road. Just
Right there.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Give us some Put
All
your,
right, so
put your cord, yeah, put your cursor there. Give me the coordinates.
there's a creek. It looks like it might be the creek to the. Yeah, that's a creek to the west there. There's a creek that runs underneath the road right by the boat launch.
Just for the
And it dumps into the reservoir right next to the boat launch.
For 44, 28, 07, 17 north, 74, 45, 47, 07 west.
For the boat launch. And you said there's a
The boat right there, right out to the reservoir a little bit, right there. That area right there. There's a gun barrel, a bolt, and
in the water.
in the water.
Just tossed in, or is there?
About no more than 30 feet off the shore, right where that little inlet is. That inlet right there is where the creek flows into the reservoir. I was fishing there.
There's a. So what will we find?
In the water, there's the gun barrel. It's a heavy metal gun barrel. It's about 12 inches long. If you drag a magnet through there, you'll probably pick it up.
Is that the silence barrel?
Well, that was off the gun that was silenced, but the silencer's not in the water.
Okay, where's the silencer?
The silencer and the rest of the gun are, move the cursor right alongside the road, on the reservoir side of the road, right there. That should be a power line right of way. And move it just a little bit south, a little bit further off the road. It looks like there's a line of trees right there between the road and the right of way.
Yeah.
Go a little further south, I believe. Right where those trees start, there is a bunch of rocks. That lighter line that runs through it, that should be a bunch of boulders. Yeah, there's a bunch of boulders, and they're kind of drop off steeply towards the water. Along that wall of boulders, there's another big rock leaning up against the. It's not really a cliff, but it's like a drop off. Underneath one of those rocks, it's about, I think if I remember right, it's about 4 feet by 6 feet. A big slab of rock that slid off. Underneath that slab of rock, there is a orange Home Depot bucket, and it's well hidden. It's got a bunch of brush and other rocks and moss and stuff piled and packed in around it. And in that bucket, there should be a silencer that I made for it's a Ruger 1022 Challenger, the pistol model. The silencer is designed it just slips on the end of the barrel, like a friction fit. The silencer is about 16 inches long. And the barrel I threw into the reservoir there along with the Courier's, I think it was a Smith & Wesson featherweight 38 snub nose that I threw in there with it. And
With the barrels, the first location.
yeah, right next to the boat launch right there. As you're standing on the boat launch, if you look directly to your right, it should be about 50 feet from the concrete of the boat launch, directly to the right.
Towards the middle or the end of the launch?
Standing on the end of the launch, facing out directly perpendicular to the road, facing out directly to the reservoir. The barrel and the gun will be about 50 to 70 feet to the right, near that little inlet where the water comes in and the creek flows into it.
Okay, just for the record, the coordinates for we already got the boat launch, but for the approximation of where the inlet to the creek is 44, 28, 06, 07 north, and 74, 45, 47, 26 west. And then the coordinates that we have for the approximate location of the Home Depot bucket and silencer are 44, 28, 04, 66 north, 74, 45, 48, 36 west.
There's in the bucket. There's two guns. One is the Challenger
the 1022 Ruger Challenger that I actually bought up here not that long ago, and the other one is a Ruger 1022. It was originally a rifle that I cut the barrel off and basically turned into. It was I had it long before I got the last one. There's no silencer for that one, but it's in the bucket too. The Challenger doesn't have a bolt in it or a barrel on it. I took that stuff off because there's shell casings and bullets in the body of that basement. That's what I shot Mr. Courier with.
What did you shoot?
Lorraine.
I didn't shoot her. I wasn't going to shoot anyone, but kind of lost my temper. So that I mean, I had 2 guns with me when I took them, but I was never planning to use the guns. I just things got kind of out of hand at the house, and I kind of lost my temper. And
What happened?
shot him. He wasn't following my instructions very well. So, yeah. But the 22, the barrel is easily removed. That's why I use those guns a lot. They're just takes 2 Allen screws. You take off the little block that holds the barrel on. Just buy a new barrel for it.
How did Lorraine die?
I'm not gonna tell that story yet. I don't think.
When you put them in the Home Depot bucket, were you putting them there so that you could come back for them later?
Yeah.
And the ones you threw in the water,
Oh, originally I was going to keep the .38 revolver that I took from their house, but I was anticipating that the bodies might be found, which I knew that, once they were, they would have record of that gun, so I decided just not to risk it and toss it.
how about their cell phones?
The cell phones, you're not going to find much left of them. I could try and show you where I burned all that stuff. It's in New Hampshire.
On the same trip you went to New Hampshire?
I was on my way to Maine,
Right.
and then had all the stuff with me in Maine, but then on my way back from Maine, I decided to just scrap the whole ATM scam with the cell phones thing plan that I had, and I had a suitcase with a bunch of their stuff in it and took it up to a campground in New Hampshire and took it back in the woods and threw everything in the suitcase and piled a bunch of wood on top of it and under it and just set it on fire and then drove off.
And what was in that suitcase of theirs?
Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. There was a couple cell phones, all their IDs, credit cards. There might have been some jewelry. I think most of the jewelry I got rid of in Burlington.
What'd you do with it there?
I just tossed it. It wasn't worth much. But yeah, I think the keys to their car. I was planning on driving back through when I was done in Maine. I was gonna drive back through Burlington on my way back to New York to see if their car had been found, and if their car hadn't been found, I was gonna torch it. But the cops already found it. So.
Were you concerned that it appeared that they had a sketch of somebody who was driving the car?
I never even saw that sketch till the other day, but yeah, it didn't. I wasn't concerned about it because.
Have you seen it now? Have you seen the sketch?
If it's the same one that was in the paper, yeah.
When you said the other day, what do you mean?
It didn't look that much like me. So
When did you see a sketch in the paper?
I saw a sketch on I don't know, one of the news stories at some point.
Recently, or after you killed them?
Well, it was after I killed him.
But I mean, that period of time, not since you've been in jail or anything.
Well, no, I saw some. I actually, before I talked to you about this, I asked my attorney to pull up the story, some information, to see if they had see what was going on with it. So, but no, I on that computer that you have, I did several searches recently because I was, like I said, I was planning on getting rid of that computer, so I started doing other searches on it.
And you were worried about people finding the bodies?
I wasn't worried about it, but I was planning, if they weren't found, my plan was to go back there either this month or next month and burn the house. The plan that night, I had the garbage bags with me, but the plan was that night to burn the house that night. But by the time I was done, it was already getting light. It was like 6 or 7 a.m., so I didn't want to start a big fire. So I just plus there was a lot to get rid of, so I didn't think the fire would. It was raining really hard, and I didn't think the house would burn that well anyway. So I just figured I'd put them in the basement, buried them under a bunch of stuff, and figured if they were found, there wasn't enough evidence there to tie me to it, and if they weren't, the plan was to go back there this year once there wasn't as much left and burn them.
When you say there was a lot of stuff to get rid of, what do you mean?
Well, he was a big guy, and once I shot him, then I couldn't pick him up by myself. So if you don't get him on top of a bunch of wood and stuff, then it's not going to burn. So I decided just to bury him with all the wood that was down there. Just let nature take its course, as it were. But one of the guns in that bucket there was already buried in Burlington, and the 40 cal that you already have was buried in Burlington with it, right down there by the Winooski.
Why did you have the guns buried there?
They were there from another trip a while back. I don't remember how. They were there for a few years.
How do you bury the gun to make sure it's not going to, do you have it in a case? Or, yeah.
I put in desiccant. I use a watertight whatever to bury them. I think in the past I've used toolboxes, but I found that 5-gallon buckets are more waterproof. And just go to a hardware store and get that desiccant that soaks up water and spray everything down really good with some sort of rust protectant, and then put that in there in the bottom of the bucket, and it soaks up whatever moisture gets in. The like I say, the ones that were buried in Burlington, that 40 cal, I'm sure they've noticed by now it had some rust damage because it was there for quite a while, and there was actually a mudslide that kind of moved it, and took me a while to find them again, but they were both a little bit rusty. I mean, not bad enough that they weren't working, just not as pretty as they used to be. So.
And where did you have them buried in?
Well, I can show you on the map, but they were right. They were only maybe 500 yards from the hotel I stayed at. I had stayed at that hotel before. So.
You just memorized where these were? You documented it?
No, it's just all in my head.
What year did you stay in the hotel before?
I don't remember. It was a few years ago.
You mentioned the silencer is a friction fit. That sounds pretty precise. Do you have a background in machining, or how did you learn that?
Yeah, I've built lots of silencers.
Well, that's kind of what I was it your first run at this? Or
no. It was by far the best one I ever did.
What are the other ones? I mean, how did you learn this? How did you get that?
First silencer I made when I was 17 was for a .38 revolver that my grandpa gave me before he died.
Did it work?
It helped. It didn't work that well.
So, I mean, just tested it in the backyard. I mean, how do you know?
Oh yeah.
Are
Well,
you
the one that was with that 22, it took me quite a while. I spent probably 50 or 60 hours on that one.
And just so we're clear, that was manufactured in your house in Alaska,
In that shed, yeah.
in that shed. And the gun, you said you bought one of these guns, by the way, in Alaska. Where did you buy it?
Up in Palmer, Alaska, I think. I think I got it off of Alaska list.
Oh, you bought it from somebody else.
Yeah, I don't have any guns registered to me. Not that I know of. But,
How many other these weapons caches do you have?
I tell you that, I'll never be able to use them again.
I thought you told us you kind of had resigned yourself to that, huh?
Never know, maybe the apocalypse will hit. No, well, I was in the process of moving all the guns I had up here down to the States. So every time I flew down, I would, whatever guns they don't like you driving through Canada with, that was basically the ones I was moving down to the States. And the ones that were in my car, when I got pulled over, those were going to be buried in somewhere. I was going to do it somewhere around the Grand Canyon because I wasn't anticipating going back to Texas anytime soon. So I was going to bury them somewhere further north to make them easier to get, or more likely that I would be back in that part of the country.
Did you have any buried down there? Because I think somebody told us that there was.
I was thinking about it, but I didn't really find any spots that I liked. So. But I'm not 100% that's where they are. I mean, there's so many boat launches and campgrounds around there, but that looks right. So, trying to think of a landmark or something that was around there that.
The boat launch pretty close to the road.
Yeah. The boat launch is right off the road. You can see it driving. And that should be a paved road.
This
Yeah, it's a paved road. Yeah. I don't remember there being two entrances to that, but maybe that they've changed it since then. Or no, because that was taken right before I was there. So there's some things about it that don't look right, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not seeing it right.
So how many other states would there be these gun caches in?
Oh. That's the only one we need to worry about right now, I'd say.
I just want to throw that to you again, that, the farther we go into this, the more we're going to be out.
Well, I mean, you saw how long it took me to find this one just looking at satellite maps, and that was just less than a year ago, so.
Yeah, so things change.
If the other stuff I know becomes relevant, then, we'll talk about it. I just don't think it'll ever become relevant.
Well, I just want you to think about what I said earlier about the relevance of what you want, and given what we need to know to help you get what you want. It does make a difference. And people are already asking me, well, what are you talking about here? And I've told them what I know so far, and it hasn't really changed anything from their perspective.
Right. Well,
and that's not taking anything away from you or me. It's just that we're
hypothetically speaking, strictly hypothetical, if I give you more information, you say they may or may not. I mean, obviously they're going to try and follow up on that information.
Well, the FBI will.
Right. But eventually, if they get enough evidence, whether I help them or not, then my name's going to be attached to it.
Well, we're doing our best right now. You know that.
No, I've already, like I say, I've already resigned myself that, what we've been talking about last few meetings or whatever, I've already resigned myself. My name's going to be attached to that stuff. But, you say if you have a list of...
Yeah. Well, then that can go in the memo that we have to write about the factors.
And it's all going to be, it's consolidated, so to speak. It's all going to be in one package, and it's all going to be disseminated at the same time rather than spread out state by state, stories coming, weeks or months at a time, and it just staying in the news. And what I'm saying is if we come across one and it's a big event there in the media, and then a week or months later we come across more, it's just gonna prolong the media frenzy. And so I think what we have to offer is consolidation of everything and basically one release rather than this thing going on for...
Well, that's what I'm concerned about. I don't want it to go
details.
on indefinitely.
But don't you
And
see
I don't
that?
see why the media has to get involved at all unless you give them
That's what
information.
That's what this I mean, they thrive on this, and we're doing the best we can to keep the media at bay. We've done really well so far. But I'm just saying that I think as hungry as the media is about this type of stuff, if anything they can get a hold of, it's going to be in the media. And I think if we can consolidate, and I think that's what we have to offer you here, because I think if you're not here and you don't give us this information and it goes elsewhere, that we don't have control of that. And you can see we have control of it here and now, and I think we can maintain that if it's consolidated to us.
Well, I think we can too, but I don't think all this stuff has to be dealt with right away. I mean, I think we've got enough on the table right now to deal with.
Well,
I mean, you still don't even have all the information of what we've already talked about. So
I know, but this is what people who make these decisions and who put together, look at the statute. That's what they want. One of the factors, I told you what it was, and the details may be important, but it's one thing everyone wants to know is how many bodies are there.
To put it bluntly, I mean, we can't put it any more bluntly than that. Is that the sheer volume is going to get you towards your goal. And
But I don't want volume. That's what I'm saying. That's not what I want. I think what I've given you already is enough to get me to my goal, and if it's not, then so be it. I'm not at all convinced at this point that you can even, because like you say, a lot of this stuff is out of your hands. It's bigger than than the buttons that you can push from up here. I mean, if you're talking about Washington, D.C. and stuff, I believe it. So,
but right now we do have control of it, and if it gets to the point where
you have control of the investigation, but you don't have control of the things that I'm concerned about, as far as which is my ultimate goal, my execution date. So,
just keep it in mind that those factors will help, and I can communicate those, even if you don't give us all the details.
But it's still very preliminary. I mean, at this point, it's not.
Which part is preliminary?
What I want. I mean, you're not ready to be. Even if I give you everything that I possibly could, how long is it going to take you to get all this information to? It just seems to me like the more information I give you, the longer it's going to take you to get everything to the powers that be.
I can tell you that that's not true. No, the more it drips out, it takes longer. The more we get up front, the faster it's going to be.
We've already written a draft of it, and we can put in your statements in the subsequent confidential draft that is going to go out, I can tell you, as early as next week.
But
you see that position, right? I mean, you see how that would work towards what you want quicker, or not? Do you not see that?
No, I don't see it.
Well,
because I don't see them moving on this stuff until they have all the information as they know it. So that's what I'm saying. Let's get all the information as they know it to them, and then let them decide if they can even do what I want.
Okay, well, we've done that, but give me hypothetically speaking, so that I can talk to them about numbers. How many bodies?
3.
How many bodies, hypothetically speaking, could you tell them about?
I'm not going to talk about anything other than what we're still talking about. Okay. Like I said, I'll give you a timeline. I know that you are going to be investigating everywhere that I've lived and all the people that I've known.
But
So in order
it's
to
everywhere
help
you've been.
in order to help you with that portion of your investigation, I will give you as much of that information as I know or as I can remember. As far as what I did in each location, like how I spent my time or whatever things I may or may not have done, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to give you all that because I'm not at all convinced that that is going to help me at all.
Well, what would convince you that that will help you? Beyond looking at the federal law that's right here in the book here, 18 United States Code.
I don't know. Maybe I should do some of my own reading on federal. I mean, there haven't even really been that many federal death penalty cases, have there?
No, there aren't as many as there are in some states. That's true.
So I don't know. Maybe I should do some research and find out if you're right. If the numbers are that big of a factor.
Do you know what some of the states? I can tell you that Nevada has a lot of death penalty cases that are executions that occur. You probably know Texas does.
Well, I understand
You're just
the
interested in
political.
that.
No, I understand the political climate as far as the way different states look at things. I understand how that could be a factor, but why does it matter if it's federal? I mean, federal is federal. It shouldn't matter so much what state it is, right? Because the federal statutes are the same in every state.
It goes all around the country. The federal is the benefit.
So
of that.
why do the states?
Oh well, because sometimes it says it here in the federal code. What will sometimes happen is the state may actually, a facility in a certain state may actually carry out that execution. Okay, even if it's a federal case, that state facility can sometimes do that. We're
right,
not there yet.
That's
Israel.
not that right, and that's not going to happen because there's certainly not a federal death row in Alaska, right? So, I mean, where are there? I just don't see this going through states.
We can find that out for you.
But if there are states that, there are victims in, we can research what the laws of that state are in case it gets you sort of closer to where, your goal is.
Yeah, I don't think, from my perspective anyway, that the states are going to be relevant. And I don't know that for sure. That's just my feeling at this point. So I would rather involve as few states as possible. Let's put it that way. We've already got 2 states involved. So.
Well, the good news for you, from what you told me you wanted, was that we have the FBI involved, and it's being kind of controlled right now out of here.
Right.
So,
and if we can keep it that way, that's great.
And that's all we wanted to offer you. You get to keep control to the extent you help us keep control, and that's partly an information.
And I understand that like I say, you're going to be researching different places I've lived, but from a very personal standpoint, you've already interviewed pretty much all of my family, I'm sure. My closest family was what I'm talking about, and I would hope that by now they don't know anything about this. So if I get the feeling that investigators are going to keep hammering away at my family through interviews or whatever, or checking up on them personally, then that is going to. We won't be talking much anymore. Let's just
And
put
that
it
hasn't
way.
happened since we've started.
No, I don't know that, but I believe you. I trust you that so far it hasn't happened. I'm just saying, if they think they're going to get answers from doing something like that, as opposed to just waiting for me to decide to talk, then they're going to get a lot farther just waiting for me to decide to talk.
And agree, we've done that homework, and we don't need to do that again. But again, I think what we have to offer is that if we have to take information that we've learned and deemed from this investigation and give it to some other entity, whether it be a state or a local agency somewhere, we can't prevent, if we have to do that, we can't prevent them from doing their own investigation, which may mean doing the same thing that we've done, which has already been done, and we agree does not need to be done by anybody else. So I can't leave you with any more.
You mean like talking to family?
Yeah, like talking to family. I mean, we've already done that, doesn't need to be done anymore. But if we have to give details to other agencies about information that we've come across in our investigation, we might not be able to stop them from doing that. So we want it all to be right here on this table amongst us. That's what we want you to understand. We can control what we are doing and what we have done and what we're going to do in the future, but at some point in time, if we find out something that we think is good enough information to give to somebody, we're obligated to do that. And
Right. And I don't think you're going to find that information, personally.
But it may be the process that bothers you too, is what we're saying. I think that's what
Yeah.
Mr. Bell is
No,
trying
it
to say.
is. Look, believe me, this is. Yeah, this is gonna be. It's gonna be a shock to a lot of people. I already know that.
Right.
So
Well, just know
I
that
can't do anything about that. It's gonna be. There's no easy way out for me. Like I've said, the easiest way out is the one I've already decided on. Now, whether or not I can actually get that, maybe not. But, you know, even if there was only one body, that's bad enough. But then, you know, me giving you more and more information is, I mean, considering what my ultimate goal is, you have to see it from my perspective. That's really kind of shooting myself in the foot.
which is
Well,
giving us more information so that we can build a stronger case.
No, the more information I give you, the more chance there is that, you know, I'm going to be tied to other things, and then that's going to make it that much harder for, you know, people who have known me.
Well, I think you told us you wanted things to move quickly and you wanted there to be a strong case so everyone would understand what you understand about why you should get what you want. That's what we're offering you. One of the things we're offering you is that you can help us build a stronger case in a controlled manner.
then the other thing out there is these investigators out there investigating, and like you say, if you don't think that they're going to come across anything or we're going to, they're still going to be out there putting out flyers. I mean, they could be out looking for information.
Right.
Putting bolos out with your picture on it, things like that we don't. I mean, we can't control that, and so.
And then it's just as bad.
Yeah, and then whether you really did whatever it is that they're looking into, it doesn't really matter at that point. So we're just trying to keep control of the facts and keeping them in-house here so that we can deal with them.
And let me
And
tell you,
have control of that.
local cops, I mean, if they start getting wind that they can close some cases by blaming it on you, they may do that, and they may give you credit for things that you didn't even do. And then next thing you know, it's sort of like it's much bigger than had you just told us the truth in the first place.
I don't think they'll go that far.
Yeah, you know,
They got to have remains at least.
you'd think, but they'll do it if it sort of brings them closure and say that they've closed the case.
Well,
I've seen it before. That's why I'm just telling you.
and I think no matter what I say, there's going to be a certain amount of that going on anyway. So, I mean, I lived for years in the Seattle area, and you know, so what are there's a lot of people in the Seattle area. It's
Sure.
Not, you know, so I mean, they're going to speculate regardless of what I say or what I give them.
No, I guess it's just about who controls that. You and us or them. And the timing.
Well, I'm saying I can't control it. Even if I gave you, to a certain extent, there's like a landslide effect. If I give you something in another state, then they're going to start looking even harder. Whereas if I don't give you anything, then they might put up flyers of me or whatever. But I lived there 5-6 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever the case may be.
But you could tell us. Like right now, you could say, hey, Vermont doesn't need to look any further, or they do. We don't, right now they don't know.
No, Vermont doesn't need to look any further.
Right, but so look, we've just checked the box, and
But they're not going to take my word for that.
Well, you know what? I'm sitting here talking to you, and I may have a chance to talk to them. So, that's worth something.
So I can tell you New Hampshire's looking.
So if you tell us where they shouldn't look, at least it gives me some information to calm some people down.
You've obviously been pretty straight with us so far, so I think talking to the four of us and
No,
Mickey and Steve and stuff,
believe me. I want to look. I want to talk more. I'm willing to talk more, but like I say, so far it's been pretty much a one-way street, and I see no reason to keep talking at all if what I want isn't even possible. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. I know you've talked about closure and things like that, but I don't see it from that point of view.
That's not how you're looking at it.
No,
Right.
because hypothetically speaking, someone else is missing. Would everybody rather just believe that they're just missing, or think that something horribly terrible happened to them?
Well, I'll tell you what the experts say, though. I mean, the experts, that's what people believe. The experts will say that they're better off knowing than missing.
I know I sure wouldn't want to know that.
And that's what they say, that everybody's better off knowing.
I don't know. I just know if my kid was missing, I feel better off that he was gone than if I'm going to wait and see him come in one day. And
I'd feel better off thinking they were on a beach somewhere in Mexico than knowing they were horribly raped and murdered.
Well, nobody needs to hear. People don't need to hear about
the details.
that horrible detail necessarily, right? They want to know: is my son, daughter, loved one dead or alive? That's what they want to know.
But that's not all they're going to get. I mean,
Well,
if it's tied to me, if my name's tied to it.
but you control those details.
You have so far, correct?
Like I say, I may be willing. I'm not making any promises at this point. Because I feel like I've given you a lot of information already, and yeah, true. Some of it I gave you just kind of as a way to cover my own ass, but I guess I want to wait at least for a couple weeks to see what happens. Let's just put it that way. I know we can't talk about a lot of stuff right now, but I just want to wait a little while to see what happens. Let's see I don't even know what my options are right now, because...
Well, what other information can we get you?
For today?
No,
Can
we can start working.
Oh, no, I mean, there's nothing we can talk about today, really.
What can we give to you? What information can we give to you if we gather it? What I'm going to do, I'll tell you, I'm going to follow up with the folks that I've already talked to and talk to them further, the capital crimes folks, so I can get more information that way and I can give it to you.
Yeah, just, I'd like to know recent history, last 10 years, federal death penalty cases. What was the average body count? What do I have to do?
What do you have to do to get that?
I know, like Timothy McVeigh, after Oklahoma City, he waived all his appeals and he went to death row pretty quick. So, and I mean, I know that was a lot of people, but still.
Yeah, that I mean, you have to understand people look at that very, very differently. Something like a terrorism event.
Yeah, to a point, but I mean, there's a lot of people, like people that I grew up with, who looked at him as a patriot, as a hero.
And you know why it went so quickly for him?
He waived all of his appeals, and he still went to trial though. He pleaded not guilty.
The sheer numbers of what he did.
But I mean, it still didn't go as quickly as I want it to go. It still took 2 or 3 years to trial, and I mean, but that's because he pleaded not guilty, right? He was.
Yeah, there was trials.
And
so but people aren't going to think 2 and hundreds of people. They're not going to compare those two. I mean, I'm just telling you the way it is.
It depends how you look at it.
I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm just trying to tell you the way that some people will look at this.
Well, maybe some people, but I'm just saying I just find it hard to believe that the average person is going to look at what he did and for the reasons he did it versus the reasons I do the things that I've done. Not even really in the same
I guess we're talking
playbook.
about different things.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think you're.
So it depends on the person, I guess. I guess if you're strictly a numbers person, but let's face it, if you're strictly a numbers person, then George Bush should be on death row right now. So
I mean, I'm just going by the statute, and the statute says.
yeah,
numbers.
I don't. I honestly, I understand what you're saying, and I mean, I hope we can still work together, and I'm hoping I can still talk to you. I've already given you information on the cases we've already talked about, and I'm going to keep giving you information on those, whatever it takes. But anything beyond that, I think I just need to wait and see what happens. And I'll keep talking to you about the specifics. I am curious to know what it is I have to do to get what I want. But if it's not going to happen anyway, then I don't see why I should keep giving
You don't
information.
see how giving us every victim or every detail that you have would help your cause?
No, it won't help me at all. That's just one more thing my kid has to live with when she grows up.
We understand that concern. Well, how about we agree to this? We'll get more information to you that you've
Yeah.
asked for. Okay.
I'm very curious to know about the whole plus 1 year timeline. So that would be.
We'll give you more information as
And
we get it.
also psych eval. We can get that scheduled. Whatever needs to be done, whenever. I don't care. I got lots of time. So.
Piece where we can sit down and do the timeline, get started on that piece that we had talked about early on. Remember the,
Yeah, you said
so I don't have to go
background.
and
Yes.
talk to,
Yes.
okay, we can get
We
started on
we
that.
can do
You,
that anytime.
you mentioned a file cabinet that does
Yeah.
that have records in it that would be helpful or that would refresh your
It
memory?
has all. Well, I mean, it's all
Okay.
in my head. But if you want corroborating records
Okay.
from the military or where I was, there's a lot of that kind of information in there.
So that's something that you gave us permission to go and get that?
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't have it.
And I don't know, we may. I'm not,
It's there's a lot of those records in that filing cabinet go back basically to my army days.
was this a filing cabinet like in the office downstairs?
Yeah, it was right next to the computer tower, and I think everything in that filing cabinet is mine. I don't think anything in that is.
Would ask if she has anything in it, obviously let her take.
I don't think there is, but
Okay.
Right. How long did you have that computer for, or you were using the computer for?
The tower.
The tower in that house.
well, I mean I've been using it since basically since I moved up to Alaska, but I brought my own computer with me from Nia Bay too.
That's the one you said you threw in the dump here?
Yeah, it's in the dump.
When did you throw that in the dump?
It was maybe November, December, I don't know, something like that.
Last year.
All right. So we'll get you some more information when we have it. The thing that I gave you today and I can offer you is information.
Yeah,
That's one thing.
no, that's great. I need it.
But you know some of the things that we've laid out to you as things that we believe
Yes.
would be helpful. So you think
And
about
I will. If I can get, if we can keep working together, then I'm willing to help you out as much as I can, as long as I know what the ultimate repercussions, I guess, of the information I give you will be. Then yeah, I'll say I will. I'm willing to give you more information, but right now I've got other stuff to get straightened out first.
Okay. And I think where I started, I'd like to finish up, which was that we're going to be truthful and reasonable with each other. And
Yeah.
if we can agree to that, then I think we can move forward like you suggest, okay?
Yeah.
And you recognize, obviously, we can provide the information, but we're not your lawyers. You understand
No,
that,
I-
obviously.
That's fine. You're. The bottom line is, everybody sitting in this room wants the same thing. You want all the information I can give you. I want to give you all the information I can reasonably give you. you want me to be punished and I want to be punished. So, I mean, obviously we're all working towards the same goals, whether or not we agree on how we get there. So that I'm just saying for now, that's how I want to get there. And if it's not possible, if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But for now, I'd like to try and make it happen. So, because that'll make it easier on everybody. I'm not a patient person. I don't think I've ever lived anywhere for more than 5 or 6 years. I get bored easily, so you can see why sitting in jail year after year for me waiting for this stuff to resolve is not really that attractive to me. So.
All right.
Okay.
Nope, I don't think so.
Dr. Bell, I'm going to go off tape. It is 12:55.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this interesting and you want more Keys evidence released, make sure you give this video a like, and I'd love to know what you think about it, so leave a comment below. My name's Victoria Evans. Be safe out there.